Taking any questions, and maybe it will be mainly focused on this. I want to talk about what just happened in El Paso. Obviously, the details are still coming out, but it looks again to be another assault weapon. It looks again to be a crime of hate of some kind, and it looks again like there are multiple people killed, and we just learned a 4-month-old is struggling for their life. That's what happened today in the United States of America. On that debate stage, we had a discussion about guns, and I made very clear my views. I don't think this is just a matter of which policy works the best. There's a lot of ideas out there, and it's not one solution that fixes everything. But I believe that the NRA have long dominated American politics to the point where they have stopped sensible legislation that would have prevented deaths and prevented killings. They have done it time and time again. And as I said out there just now, there was a sea change in this country in the last year. And I have been through this issue first as a prosecutor when I supported the assault weapons ban and supported background checks. And we tried in law enforcement, the police chiefs, to make some changes. That didn't happen. Then I got to the U.S. Senate, and I thought, well, I'll be in a good place to do something about this. And then it just sits there because of the power of the NRA and the gun lobby. Then we had Sandy Hook happen, and I thought, well, now we're finally going to see some change. And I had those moms in my office that morning when Senator Manchin and I had just talked, and we had to tell them that there wasn't enough support to pass that background check bill that was supported by two formerly rated A-rated NRA senators. Why? Because the Senate didn't have the courage to pass that bill. And I remember this mother telling me how the day of the shooting, she kissed her little boy goodbye. And he was the last time she ever saw him. And he pointed up at the refrigerator as a school aide because he couldn't talk. He had autism. And he then went to school. And as she sat hours later in that fire station, waiting and waiting and waiting, realizing she never would see her little boy again, she thought of that school aide as she's sobbing. And when they found them, the school aide had her arm around that little boy, and they were both shot to death. Those parents had the courage to come for change. They didn't get it. Then we had Parkland. What happened in Parkland? Something changed. I think it was the kids. I think it was not just the kids from Florida. The kids across the country suddenly woke up and started talking to their parents and their grandparents, specifically their dads and their granddads, who were hunters, and said, why can't we have something sensible happen when it comes to gun safety? The result? We changed the House of Representatives, and kids voted in record numbers. The result now, they passed gun safety legislation in the House of Representatives, but now it is sitting on Mitch McConnell's doorstep, waiting for action. So this is not just about what policy works better. This is about a power of an outside group and people who are too afraid to act. And it is not just about mass shootings, it's about every single day in America, in neighborhoods across the country. So my heart goes to that town right now, but it is day after day we see these shootings. Literally every week, a classroom of kids get killed. And I hope that this time, it's gonna not just change the House of Representatives, that we're gonna be able to put a president in place. I hope it's me, because I'm the one that has been leading a number of these bills, including closing the boyfriend loophole. I'm the one that sat across from the President of the United States when I saw him write down 9 times that he wanted universal background checks. And what does he do? The next day he meets with the NRA and he folds. Well, I'm not gonna fold. So this is about the presidency, but it is also about the U.S. Senate. Take any questions.
Senator, we don't know the motivation for this shooting in particular, but in a lot of these shootings, they've been racially motivated, they've been racist, they've been white nationalists, they've been anti-Semitic. Can you talk a little bit about what's at the core of that and how we kind of cross the line and fix those problems in the country?
Well, the first, I think I would start with gun policy, because you're always going to have some hate out there. I think we just had testimony from the FBI director a week or two ago, and he testified that the hate crimes are on the rise in this country. So we know that is happening. but you're always gonna have some hate. And so if you can limit access to guns for people that are not supposed to have them, then you're not gonna have the tragic deaths that we've seen right now. So I'd lead with that. For the hate, I think we know what's going on right now. Increase in hate crimes across this country. Increase in hate crimes against racial minorities in this country. Increase in hate crimes against immigrants. Increase in hate crimes against anyone that looks different. There are people that just happen to have a beard that get yelled at, or someone that has different hair that gets yelled at. The story of this little girl in my own town who went out to dinner with her sibling and her parents. And these were a Muslim Somali community. They went out to dinner one night, and this guy walks by them, and he says, "You four go home. You go home to where you came from." This happened during the worst of the Trump rhetoric in the 2016 campaign. They had never had anything happen like this before, this family. You go home to where you come from. The little girl looks up at her mom, and she says, "Mom, I don't want to eat dinner at home tonight. You said we could eat out tonight." You think of the words of that innocent child. She doesn't even know what he's talking about because she only knows one home. That's my state. She only knows one home. That's the United States of America. So this hate is fueling a lot of these shootings, but it's fueling other crimes and bullying behavior and hated words. So what I would do as president is, first of all, I would obviously stop the divisive rhetoric, number one. Number two, as a former prosecutor, who actually, at the time I was prosecutor, was invited to the White House to introduce President Clinton when I had never been to the White House before, when he rolled out the hate crimes bill because of my work in that area. I would enforce those laws that are on the books. But it is, as you know, not just about courtrooms and lawyers. That is important, but it's not the only thing. A lot of it just has to do about the corrosive nature of comments that have become everyday place in this country. I want to be a president that people are proud of. I don't want to be a president that teachers and parents have to turn on the TV because they don't want kids to hear what's coming out of the mouth of the President of the United States. That fuels a lot of hate in this country.
Senator, are you saying the president is directly responsible for mass shootings and these kind of attacks on people?
No, I'm not. The individuals that do the shootings are responsible. But what I do think is that his rhetoric has fueled more hate in this country.
Senator, getting back to gun policy, a little earlier in this room, Senator Booker spoke about his proposal, permit to purchase or some kind of gun licensing program. Is that something you would at least consider, or are there other policies you think we can change?
Sure. So a number of policies. One I think we should look at I'll start with the big ones. The assault weapon ban, you want to make sure it works. The background checks, uniform background checks, closing the gun show loophole, limits on magazines. All of these bump stocks, you think about what happened in Las Vegas, those kinds of policies. The extreme risk orders have worked in some states. Closing the boyfriend loophole is especially helpful with domestic violence homicides. I lead that bill. It is right now sitting on Mitch McConnell's door because it is in the Violence Against Women Act that passed the House. Just so you know what that is, those are cases where people who have committed domestic violence are not allowed to purchase a gun if they've been convicted. However, it only applies for people who live together or who are married or formerly married. It doesn't apply to dating partners, which makes no sense in the world. So closing that loophole would make a big difference to save lives. I just think you can't look at one size fits all when it comes to gun policy. And then another one to think about is not allowing people under 21 to purchase assault weapons, which would have helped actually in one of the recent cases.
Would you support in other countries when mass shootings happen, taking further drastic action? I'm not sure buyback programs, even sexual confiscation efforts. Would you go to that?
I would go to all the things I just said. I think that would make a huge difference in this country if we got that done. And then you could look at voluntary buybacks. And hopefully there would be some private sector partners that would be interested in helping. But why would they do that right now? when we haven't even changed the laws and people can just go out and buy new guns.
And sorry, we talked about how this will, legislation designed Mitch McConnell. To the people who are scared of an incident like this happening in their community, is there anything that can happen in your estimation in the next year and a half legislation forward, or are we just in this reality?
The president has claimed that he wants to do things. He claimed it right across the table from me. You should watch the tape of that. We were playing this on your TV stations because he said at that meeting right after Parkland that he wanted to see universal background checks. And then he basically killed off the effort after meeting with the NRA. So it is possible that the public furor over this gets so big that they decide to allow these bills to move forward. The common sense thought in Washington, the kind of elite view, is that maybe we could get the extreme risk orders done. That would be helpful, but of course it's just one small measure. And then I think that we could possibly get the boyfriend loophole closed if he will allow the domestic violence bill to go forward. That got 33 Republican votes in the House. And then I think we wait for a new president. And by the way, a few of these things, studying gun violence through the CDC and closing the boyfriend loophole, I could do in my first 100 days. You actually don't have to go to Congress to get those things done. And there's a few other things as well. So you could see under a new president, immediate action on 100 days, introduce these bills and pushing them through. For the first time ever, I would say the chances are way above 50% that those get done. I think they get done without a doubt.
Last question. So I just got a political question. You guys announced yesterday that you qualified for the third debate there. You watched the second debate. I'm guessing you watched the second today. Any reflections on what you saw on that stage and what you wanted to?
I'm not going to be a pundit about the second debate, but I will say this. I think that my view of these debates is that it is an opportunity to debate policy, and we should do that. But we have to remind people that there is more that unites us than divides us. I used my debate time to take it to Donald Trump, and that's one of the reasons that we had a bunch of contributions pour in. I think people recognize that we should be spending more of our time at these debates putting forward an optimistic economic agenda and foreign policy agenda, and then showing a contrast with Donald Trump. The other reason I believe this is purely political and strategic. There are people watching these debates that are independents and moderate Republicans. Some of them voted for Donald Trump. So if you're just going to go there and bicker the whole time, you don't give them anything to vote for. You don't show them what's wrong with Donald Trump, and you also don't show them your own optimistic economic agenda. We learned in 2018 that if we stay unified behind a cause, and that point it was protecting the Affordable Care Act, that we can win, because the people are with us on these issues. And so we cannot lose track of that when we go into this next debate. I'm hoping that, I don't know how many are going to qualify, if it's 10, 12, how many people, but at some point they divide it into 2 nights and you have smaller debate stages. Maybe it's a little harder being me when you only have 6, 7 people on there. I don't know, maybe some people think it's easier, but and then maybe we'll have a little less of let's look for the viral moment. I think instead of looking for a viral moment, we should be looking to change this country. We should be looking to lead this country. And leaders don't just look for viral moments. Leaders lead. All right?